Good morning. Welcome to Zenglop, the podcast, music, poetry, psychogeography. Check out the website, zenglop.net, podcast archive. There's a link to a newsletter subscription. I still haven't sent out a newsletter. My intent was to do one of those every month or so. And it is now the 1st of April, and there has not been a single newsletter sent out. So I will write in my goals for April, my April goals. Send out a Zenglop newsletter. So what are we talking about today? I am reading a collection of Stoic literature. Mostly the Roman Stoics. And I picked this up. It's actually a book I picked up as an audible, as a recorded book. It's by a guy called Ward Farnsworth. And it's called The Practicing Stoic, a Philosophical User's Manual. And it's really quite a wonderful collection. He has curated all kinds of quotes and snippets from people like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and others. But he also has really insightful connecting bits. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a book of quotes. He's got some helpful direction on how to think about Stoic literature. So I enjoyed listening to the Audible book. It was one that I had in my rotation for dog walking. It took a couple of weeks to listen to. I enjoyed it so much that I purchased a hard copy. And then I realized that this same author, Ward Farnsworth, has a series of books on the English language, on rhetoric and style and metaphor. Well, he follows the same practice. He has examples from famous or not so famous but important documents, and then his own interesting and useful direction around it. So the book I'm reading in parallel to this on style takes a lot of examples from Abraham Lincoln and Winston Churchill, for example. So these are good books to have on my desk, and then during the workday, if I find myself with 5 or 7 minutes spare, instead of scrolling through Facebook, which is my natural default, I will pick up one of these books and read a paragraph or two. So that's all by way of context. The Stoics are interesting for many reasons, but I'm particularly interested in their writings about death and about mortality. And they view mortality as really just one more external influence or external event towards which we should apply our thought, our emotions, but apply the same characteristic of thought to our mortality that we would apply to a mosquito bite or a relationship loss or a financial misfortune. Right? A mosquito bite, by the way, not meant as an example of something trivial. A mosquito bite is infuriating. So one of the ways that Stoics approach these externals and that we can help ourselves deal with difficulties is by really asking what's there. Like, what is it? What is it that is the trouble? What is it that's the problem? And apply some rational thinking to it. But I want to be careful about saying that, because the impression that Stoicism is effectively and necessarily a negation of emotion is not the case, and probably a bigger topic that we'll pick up along the way here. It's similar in ways to the reaction that you can have towards some of the Buddhist teachings around emptiness. It's easy to take that teaching and interpret it as in kind of a negative way, in a nihilistic way. And although there is renunciation in both Stoicism and in Buddhism, it is not it's not a renunciation drawn from nihilism or lack of confidence or lack of meaning. It's the reverse. So let's come back to that. I'll make a note to pull on that thread some more. And look, I mean, I've talked about things like that in other episodes, but what I want to do today is line up two references that may not immediately suggest themselves as partners in Stoic thinking. And that's in part because the second, if the first is Marcus Aurelius from his Meditations, the second is Philip Larkin. And Philip Larkin was not Stoic in his reaction towards mortality, whether someone else's or particularly his own. What he is in the poems is a wonderful articulator of the dilemma. In his poetry, he has a magisterial capability to extract from the quotidian, from the day-to-day, to extract the existential essence. Now, he would not, I don't think, appreciate the word existential there, and it's not the right word. It's the one that comes to mind, but he'll squeeze the moment and reveal the moment in its banality and its richness. In that there's a contradiction in Larkin's poetry about the progression from observing a day-by-day, probably trivial, potentially annoying situation, but transforming that into an appreciation of the richness of that experience in that moment. But within that, Larkin is always concerned about the end of that experience and the end of his own fullness of experience, meaning his mortality, meaning his death. And I don't ever get the sense in his poetry that he reconciles to that. And look, why should you? I mean, I'm certainly not saying that we should be blasé towards our death, but in particular, then Larkin in his poem Obad directly quotes the Stoics or Socrates. When I've talked about this poem before, I've mentioned the line in Obad where I think Larkin is challenging Socrates. So earlier than Marcus Aurelius, and in a different context, Socrates is, of course, about to be executed and appears to give no concern about his his death. Not just appears, it really has it worked out in a way that he tries to explain to his colleagues and friends. He starts by saying, look, if when I die, not if I die, when I die, there's a couple of things that could happen, right? The first is what we are talking about and what we're worried about, which is that there's nothing there. And then what's to worry, right? There's a transition, and Socrates doesn't speak so much about that, but Aurelius does, and the Stoics will say that what we're really afraid of isn't being dead. If being dead means nothing, not even dreams, no sensation, then we're not afraid of that. We're afraid of the process to get there and the anticipation of that. So if that's the case, Socrates is like, man, he sort of shrugs that off. If, on the other hand, when he dies, he transforms into some ethereal substance and then spends the rest of eternity in conversation with good people and wise philosophers, then holy shit, what else could you ask for? Right? So Aurelius, Marcus Aurelius, his Meditations says this. Again, this is a collection of quotes. I am thinking of reading Meditations, but I haven't read it myself. Marcus Aurelius, he who fears death fears either the loss of sensation or a different kind of sensation. But if you will have no sensation, you will feel nothing bad. And if you have a different kind of sensation, then you will be a different kind of living being and will not have ceased to live. And that I find really important. Listen to Larkin. I won't read the whole poem. The first couple of stanzas describes him waking up in the early dawn hours and considering his own death. And then he says, right? At the total emptiness forever, the sure extinction that we travel to and shall be lost in always. Not to be here, not to be anywhere, and soon, nothing more terrible, nothing more true. So that he's describing there the second of those options, right? Either you're in your death, you will experience nothing. This is a special way of being afraid no trick dispels. Religion used to try. That vast moth-eaten musical brocade created to pretend we never die. And specious stuff that says, no rational being can fear a thing it will not feel, not seeing that this is what we fear. No sight, no sound, no touch or taste or smell, nothing to think with, nothing to love or link with, the anesthetic from which none come round. So first, the bit about the vast moth-eaten musical brocade of religion. That's not what we're talking about here today. Marcus Aurelius is not creating anything to pretend that we never die. Neither is Socrates. Quite the opposite, right? But the sentence, no rational being can fear a thing it will not feel. Larkin even puts that in italics, which I'm assuming means that he's wanting us to know that he's paraphrasing Socrates and Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics. But what he's done here, I think, this is not seeing that this is what we fear. No sight, no sound. It's the preparation for that moment that fills Larkin's poetry, that he so completely describes. it's a misreading, I think, to think that what Larkin is describing is a state where we are aware that we are not feeling anything. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't think Larkin is afraid of the sensation similar to waking up in a coffin and being confined and not having any sense input. A deprivation, an awareness of deprivation. Larkin's more subtle than that. Well, my frustration with him is always that he does such a good job of defining the situation, but then why doesn't he think it through a little bit and take that awareness of mortality as a clarion call to practice now. My thinking on this is unformed, naturally. We don't know this. But there's a lot of things we don't know. We don't know. Why are we more afraid of what comes after this metabolically supported consciousness, this wonderful paradigm of awareness? Why are we more worried about what comes after it than what came before it? Isn't it just as strange and weird that we were born in the first place? And aren't there enough intimations in the strangeness of our current experience to suggest that it's more likely that something different will occur once we stop relying on corporal metabolism? It's kind of where I'm thinking. It's not a particularly confident view, and it's not based on anything other than intimations of experience from the meditation cushion. But I love that poem. It's Obad by Philip Larkin. But I always struggle a bit with it feels like a bit of a smack in the face to practically quote Socrates or Marcus Aurelius and then not follow through on that. So, anyway, gone on a bit longer than usual today. I have a couple of other essays and writings on Larkin, so we'll probably come back to this. I want to think more about why I'm so troubled by Larkin's reference in the poem. What am I missing? My feeling is that he is just stating the problem really clearly, really well, beautiful poem, and then deliberately turning away, unable to think through what he's arrived at. And I don't blame him. It's hard. I can't do it. It's tough. Anyway, keep your wits about you. I'll check with you all later. Have a good one.